Hello, my name is Joe Rogers, and I coach at Army. And Jerry, I was privileged to spend Jerry's last 10 years there with him. Several things. First of all, a number of people from ODIA Athletic Department asked me to extend my sincerest best wishes to the family, and because Q and I were on the phone somewhat frequently in the last year or so, that everyone was always asking, how's Q doing? And believe me, I got asked that question every week by many people. And one of the things that people had said about Jerry was how he would talk to everybody. He was a friend to everybody, and it's so true, because the several secretaries and Rich the mail guy and all those folks were really interested in how he was doing and wanted to know about him and wanted to give their best wishes. My wife also apologizes for not being able to follow me out here, and wanted to wish the best to you as well. One of the great joys that Jerry and I shared together was that we would frequently have lunch together. Of course, obviously we had a working relationship in the office, but he and I would go to lunch a lot together. And one of the great things that we would do was to sit and just talk about mutual friends. Our coaching careers parallel each other in a lot of ways. He achieved quite a bit more than I did, but we started at approximately the same time. We were high school coaches, moved into college. In fact, when he was at Wayne State, I was coaching at a school called Hillsdale College, in which we were in the same conference. So we coached against each other for a very, very short time, but became close friends over the years in many ways. And one of the friends that we knew in common was a guy that coached at Eastern Michigan by the name of Bob Parks. And Bob was, he's in the Hall of Fame, and had a number of Olympic athletes in his own right, and was a great, great coach. And the reason I mention this is that last week, upon learning of Jerry's passing, my wife, who is a Facebook friend with Bob, I don't do Facebook, but he posted his remembrances of Jerry. And one of the things he said he had asked Jerry, he said, you know, you were at Wayne State for about 3 years, and what did you take away from your experience at Wayne State? And Jerry smiled and said, well, I got a life. And that was so classic of Jerry. All the wonderful things you folks have said about him are so true, and I can't add that much more. But I have appreciated being a part of his life and him being part of my life for a period of time. So thanks for all of you coming. It's great to be here with you.
Good afternoon. I'm Rich Harris. This is my brother Tracy. I was with Q in his Colorado State days. The 4 years he was there were my 4 years, and my brother Tracy was at Idaho State while Q was there. I want to kind of expound upon a little bit of what Greg Burrell said about Q's voice and the 3 minutes, the 2 minutes, but that really wasn't the true Q. The true Q is when you saw him and he said, "Hey, Bubba!" Now, how many of you were a Bubba and can remember him saying, "Hey, Bubba," when you saw him? I so distinctly remember that coming into South College Fieldhouse, and Q would say that as a greeting, and he was positive, he was upbeat, he had life by the tail, even though he was in that little broom closet of an office that they had down there at South College. I've never forgotten the positiveness that Q embodied. And looking at the pictures, you had 2 pictures on the bottom of that memorial online. Nothing could say more about who Jerry Fuller was if you did not know the man than looking at those 2 pictures. You see the expression on his face, the light in his eyes. That was a man who loved what he was doing. And my dad had a great saying that I heard time and again when I was a kid. He said, you can't always do what you like, so you should like what you do. And clearly Q was a person who got to do what he liked, and he loved doing it. I want to tell you one brief story about Q, and this may get him stripped of any award that he ever got or any title he ever had, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And Sandy, I hope you remember this, and you may. I was living in Fort Collins in between school years in 1979, and I get a phone call one night, and it's literally the middle of the night, and the gist of the call was, I have to go to Nebraska and bring bail money. And so I start knocking on doors, and I'm trying to raise the bail money. And I've got a little bit of money. And of course, you're college guys, and you know, who's got money in those days when you're in college? And I end up in Q and Sandy's doorstep asking for bail money. And Q gave me an ATM card, I went to their bank, I used your ATM card, and I got out bail money, and drove to Nebraska and did what I had to do. Sandy, I hope I paid you back. But the gist of it is, we were more than just athletes there. You know, Q treated everybody, whether you were the fastest person on the team or you were in the back of the pack. You all got treated great by him, and we were more than just athletes to him. I think we were family, and a couple of years ago I was on the phone with him, and Ryan and Rory and Rob, your dad, spoke so highly of you three. And as a father, I could not be more proud of what he had to say about you three. And I didn't know you guys, obviously. I think, Ryan, you may have been one or two. When we left Fort Collins, we all left Fort Collins. But what a great father he was to you, that I found out in just a brief conversation. And that epitomized Q, I think, more than anything, as I've heard from all of you today, is he was a great family man first and a great coach second.
Again, I'm Tracy Harris, and I ran for Q from 1980 to 1983 at Idaho State, and I hung around another year at Idaho State. Anyway, I came to Idaho sight unseen in 1980, strictly to run for Q. I was an above-average D3 runner at a school in Minnesota, and I heard that Q was transferring to Idaho State, and I knew I was going there. I wanted to run at Division I, and obviously I knew what he had done with my brother, so I came out to Idaho sight unseen in 1980, and I've been there ever since. Been to Idaho ever since. The gentleman, the Army coach, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, but he mentioned Facebook, and I wish I had, I wrote a tribute to Q on Facebook, and I wish I had it in front of me, but two things come to mind. Ryan talked about passion, and the other thing that I put on there was confidence. And I'm a teacher and a coach today, and I learned confidence from Jerry Quiller and passion. If you ask anyone in Idaho why I coach the way I coach, I say I got that from Jerry Quiller. Passion. Passion is something that if you want to be successful, is absolutely what you have to have. And that's the one thing that will stick out in my mind above all for Jerry Quiller is passion. It's just absolutely incredible. While we're standing up here, two stories came to mind. One of them was driving the vans. The vans were just absolutely incredible. I was always in the front seat with Q because him and I would score every meet before we even got there. We scored the meet, Q would eat in his seats. But one time, I cannot even remember where we were going, but all I know is we were kind of running low on gas, and I was the one that said, Q, we can make it up the hill. Lo and behold, we run out of gas. I'm the one that Q forced to get out, go run to the gas station. So there was one story there. But another story, the gentleman that was up earlier and talked about where he almost killed you and saved you at the same time. Well, my girlfriend at the time, who is also my wife, 26 years, and we were doing a duathlon together at Idaho State at Reed Gym. Greg, you would know because you're the ISU representative with me here. Anyway, I get done with the run, hand off to Margaret. Margaret jumps on the bike, going out of the parking lot in Reed Gym. Some guy's backing up, backs up, hits Margaret. The bike goes flying, Margaret goes flying. It's Q. It was Q. And typical Q, which is I've never seen him angry. I've never seen him. He's just unflappable. He gets out of the car. What's going on? What's going on? It was just classic Q. And I am so happy that I made it out here. And those of you that you're just so lucky to be touched by Q. He's an amazing person.
I'm Don Myers. Q and I had a lot of interaction in the early days when he was in school and thereafter. I was a CU guy, he was a CSU guy. And I remember the first time I saw him on the track, I saw that big smile and that you just feel the enthusiasm. But we shared something in common. We both were very myopic. And we had these Coke bottle bottom glasses, both of us, and all the family can remember those. Jerry had his strapped back behind him, and me too. But you know, early, well, one of the greatest memories that I have of Jerry was when he competed in the National Pentathlon Championships here in Boulder, Colorado, you know, at the University of Colorado. Frank Potts, the track coach at that time, was kind of a pioneer in the pentathlon, and those of you that know Jerry know that he was a multi-event guy. I mean, he was a decathlete, pentathlon. Well, we had this this national competition, and I was helping officiate. You know, Frank Potts asked me to help, and so I was down on the field and you know, watching all the competitors and these big, strong guys. I mean, the cream of the crop in the United States, and there's old Q, you know. And you know, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the biggest, but you know, you could just sense that this was going to be a good competition for him. Well, as the competition unfolded, I think, Al, were you there? Were you, Dan, were you there? Yeah. You know, Jerry was a hurdler and a sprinter, and you know, and just did everything pretty well. But he had two, if I remember right, two personal bests in this 5-event pentathlon. And you know, you'd see some of these hot shots, you know, have these great marks, and then the next event they fall down, and you know, but Jerry was just so solid and just steady. And the thing that impressed me most was just watching his demeanor. You know, we've had so many people talk about Jerry and how he coached, and you know, his qualities as a man and all that. Well, I had the opportunity to see those qualities on the athletic field, you know, before I even knew much about his coaching. He was a determined guy. You know, he had that intensity, and he was a competitor. A competitor with this big smile on his face. I've never seen anything like it before. You know, most intense guys, competitor-wise, you know, they're getting ready and they're inside their head. Q was not like that at all, and he was such a technical kind of genius. You know, he did all these events and he had the great technique. So that made a real impression on me. And not long after that, I became the coach at CSU. Jerry had just finished his undergraduate, and he was working on his master's. And he walked in my office one day and he said, hey coach, you need any help? And I said, yeah, I need a lot of help. And so he became a cross-country coach and worked with many of the athletes, and just you know, the instant feeling that on the team, having him there, having him boosting everybody up, you know, confidence in all of the ability and the skills that you've already heard about. And I had you know, in the last 3 or 4 years, after Sandy and Jerry moved back after his retirement, I kind of reconnected with Q. You know, we've been kind of, you know, he was away and we really didn't have close contact. But we'd go to lunch about every month, and John Lunn and the three of us would have a great time, and that was really special for me, just to get reacquainted with Q. And lastly, let me tell you, discussion I had with my son about 3 or 4 years ago. He's a very philosophical guy. We had some pretty deep discussions, and he posed a question to me that I think you'll get a kick out of. He said, now, Dad, of all the people that you've known, if I had come to you, you know, in my early development years, who would you want me to model my life after? Didn't even take me a second. I said, Jerry Quiller.